Welcome to The Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, The Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you. A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. And today's music, created fresh by Rick Kleffel, will be called Stars Rise. We are the dreams of our ancestors. We are their hopes for the future. But sometimes their trauma is transmitted to us through nightmares. Today's guest, friend of the Dream Journal, Linda Schiller, will be talking about how to heal that intergenerational pain and open up to the gifts of our ancestors. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. Well, I had a dream this morning about doing my old NASA work. Why is it coming up now? I don't know, but I was thinking about the specifics of determining the temperature structure of the protosolar nebula, and I'm trying to, why am I dreaming about this now? I don't know. Something about spreadsheets, perhaps, getting rid of the IASD. Lots of spreadsheets in my life right now. I'm not sure, but I'm just happy to not be part of the NASA thing anymore. It was fine while it lasted, and now I'm ready to move on. So welcome, Linda Schiller. So glad to have you on the show. That's Linda Schiller, Schiller. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Catherine. So nice to see you again.
Good to have you here again. This is, I think, your third appearance on the show.
At least second, maybe third.
Yes. Let me introduce you. Linda Schiller is an international teacher, psychotherapist, and dream worker. She is Professor Emeritus from Boston University School of Social Work and the Postgraduate Trauma Certificate Program. She's the author of 3 books, and her latest book is called Ancestral Dreaming, Healing Generational Wounds with Active Dream Work. And you can find Linda at her webpage, lindayaelschiller.com, and that's YAELSCHILLER, lindayaelschiller.com. So Linda, it's wonderful. So we're talking about ancestors. Yeah. What got you thinking about ancestors? Because you did a book about general dream work, the modern dream work book, and then you did another one specifically related to trauma, PTS
Right.
dreams. And now it's about the ancestors. Tell us a little bit about that. Why did you choose that as a topic?
So as with all of the things that I write, the topic kind of chooses me as opposed to me choosing it. And all of my 3 books were written in a response to or connection with dreams of my own as well. Mm-hmm. So I want to, at some point later, I want to think about the dream you shared this morning. And, as we say in the dream world, if it were my dream, right. I had the beginning of some resonant thoughts about your dream and its connection to our conversation today, but I didn't have time to think about it yet.
Sure, we'll let that process, let that mull through.
Stew.
Perfect.
And I used the word stew on purpose because, to answer your question, a colleague of ours from IASD, Jose Laura, was a American volunteer in the Ukraine several years ago, helping the war trauma survivors there. And he was using my book, PTS Dreams, to help the war trauma survivors heal from their nightmares. And then, so he contacted me and we had this kind of conversation ongoing for a while. And then we discovered that PTS Dreams has been translated into Spanish, but my first book, Modern Dream Work, who knows how or why, has been translated into Russian. And you can see it up there on my shelf, the far, I don't know if you're left or right, but
the pale blue
randomly one showed up in the mail one day for me, these books in Russian, and it's like, I have no idea what this is. And then I kind of flipped through it, and the back, the bibliography was still in English. So it's like, oh my God, this is my book. So Jose then used that book to help the Ukrainians learn English because Russian and Ukrainian are pretty similar. So that's one piece of the story. But the reason it's so relevant in terms of my ancestors and connecting with them is that my grandfather's from Kiev.
Oh.
And they left in 1903. They had to escape because of pogroms.
Mm.
So my grandfather's parents, he took him out at 3, and they made their way to America. So there was something so healing and sort of full circle for me, that things that I'm writing today are now being used to help the people where my ancestors, in a country where my ancestors had to flee for their lives.
Mm.
There was something so sort of synchronistic in a healing way, like the Ouroboros with the snake eating its tail. And I sort of felt really honored to be a part of this. There's a great word in Hebrew, it's called tikkun. And tikkun olam means repairing the world.
Mm.
So to be part of this tikkun in my little family system, and that was the seed for me starting to write this book.
Okay.
And then later on, a little bit after that, I had a dream that appears in the book about borscht, which is a
Borscht, yes.
yeah, which is a Eastern European Russian, beet soup, a peasant soup. And then when I unpacked and worked with the dream, it was like that was the prompt for getting the book going between those two events.
Really get it stewing. That's why you use that word
Exactly.
stewing.
That's why I
Yes.
used the word on purpose. You got it.
Got it. Okay. I love that. So, like, let's think a little bit about ancestors. It's something that isn't really a very big part of our American culture, and that we tend to think that we can do it ourselves and we can leave behind our families and we can, make new families. But you're really acknowledging that we are influenced by our family lineage, and both in good ways and in bad ways.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
so like people often think about like the trauma, like you mentioned your grandfather having to flee the pogroms and come to the U.S. then, and so
Right.
that would then have set up this trauma, like whether it's genetic in the DNA or whether it's in the family culture, because it sets up some kind of family stories.
Right.
Then there's really positive things we get from them, like the resilience that he escaped.
That's right.
Yeah. What is the name of your grandfather? I'd like to just kind of bring him here into the room.
Oh, that's so sweet. We call him Grandpa Joey, so his name is Joseph.
Oh, Joseph. So Joseph, he fled the trauma and he started in his family, or he brought his family to the U.S. And so he both brought in some of the trauma and also some of the resilience.
Right. That's right. Right. His parents bred him. He was 3, but then he carried that, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wanted to backtrack a minute to what you said when you started talking about how we in Western culture
Yeah.
don't really pay, I believe, enough attention to our family line and to our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
In contrast to cultures around the world, indigenous cultures, native cultures, that throughout both time and space, all parts of the world, and as far back in time as we can go, people pay attention to their ancestors and they honor them, they revere them,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they pray to them, they invoke them. And in many, many native and traditional cultures, the leaders of the tribe or clan, the medicine men and women, the shamanic men and women, are those who have the best ability to converse with and be in touch with and learn from their ancestors.
Right.
So I think we're way overdue
Mm-hmm.
in our culture to be paying attention to not only where we are in this moment, in this very much left brain now centered society
Yeah.
that we live in, but to pay attention to both where we come from, how it influence us is can't even say that together, epigenetically,
Yeah.
and we can talk more about that if you want, and how we're raised, as you referred to. How we're raised influences who we are, and how our parents were raised influences who they are, and how their parents were raised. So these family stories do pass forward and forward in time. So when we pay attention to that, then we have a sense that we are connected to something larger than ourselves. We They're connected through time and space, and we can connect both with their gifts and their blessings and have an opportunity then to heal past traumas back in time so that we can bring that healing to our ancestors, bring it forward through to ourselves, and then pass that healing on to our children and our descendants rather than repeating a history of pain and trauma.
Right. Okay. So go ahead and touch in on the different ways that we are affected by our ancestors. We've mentioned the culture, like the family stories, and you mentioned epigenetics. What is that?
Okay, so this is something I learned in doing my research for the book. It's based on the word genetics, and epi, I looked up, is Latin for on top of or above. So this is above the genetics. So we think of genetics usually as the eye color we inherit. You know, you have brown hair, I have blonde hair. We inherited these physical traits in a traditional genetic fashion from our ancestors. But we also know from decades now of scientific research that our genetic code, our DNA, is also influenced and can be changed by things that happen in our environment.
So the DNA itself is changed?
Yes,
Wow.
it's the DNA itself is not changed in the way that you're going to have different hair color or eye color, those concrete things. But there's a process called methylation that changes how our genetic coding is interpreted
Ah.
by the enzymes and
Oh,
the
how it's
genetic
expressed, rather.
coding
Yeah.
is in our bodies and how it's expressed. And there's two really fascinating things. So that's affected by what happens to us on the outside, the environment we're in, and what happens to us on the inside. Our emotional state, if it's maintained long enough, also affects this epigenetic layer.
Okay.
So, and then there's one more piece to
Yeah.
this epigenetic thing is that this then gets passed on from generation to generation. So, as I mentioned before, our parents, let's say, who were raised by our grandparents, were raised with particular family culture and particular family stories that they internalized from the moment they were born all the way on. That becomes part of their genetic inheritance then that passes on to us.
Right.
So
Well,
that's, oh, I'm
well,
sorry.
I just wanted to give an example, like, for example, of like, maybe the story could be the world is against us. That could be
That's right.
a story. But then there's also
Exactly.
stories like that we are strong and resilient. So these stories become part of the family cultures. That's what you're talking about?
Exactly
Okay.
right. That's right. And they become part of who we are.
Yeah.
And part of also why it becomes part of who we are, and this I found fascinating to a scientist like yourself, you will, I'm sure too. All of the eggs that women are born with in our ovaries are already there before we're born.
I've
So, in
heard
other
that.
words, our eggs were inside of our mother when she was pregnant with us. And our mother's eggs were inside of her mother, our grandmother, but our grandmother was pregnant as us. So, in a very sort of literal sense, we were actually there
Wow.
before we were born from generation back and back and back as far as that um, genetic line goes. So we have that literal piece of epigenetic inheritance that's influenced by the biology of the people who were connected to and their reactions to their life and their emotional state, as well as the environmental piece that we
Wow.
grew up with in our family.
So that's the real brain bender. So
I know, isn't it?
it makes me think about my mother's mother now and what was going on with her. And she was pretty, went through a lot of trauma actually. And
Where's your grandmother from? Where?
well, it was just from her husband who was abusive.
Oh,
And so,
sure. It's not just from other countries,
no,
but in the family system you live in,
yes.
right? There's
Yeah.
public trauma and there's private trauma. And
Oh, I love that
there's lots of
distinction.
private trauma.
Public trauma versus private trauma. That's a great distinction to make. Yes. And they're both really important and can affect generations because,
That's exactly
there
right.
was abusers in my family. My mother, on my mother's side, she broke the cycle. God
Mhm.
bless her. I mean, she really just broke the cycle. But her father was abusive, and her father's mother was abusive, and it must have gone up the line. And so this kind of behavior is very transmitted from generation to generation. And
That's right.
so this work that we all doing, we always talk about that this individual work, this inner work, is healing the ancestors
That's right.
and healing the future as well. And I think really by overcoming some of that pre-verbal trauma that gets passed down through the generations, that we really are evolving humanity forward. I believe that this is an important thing of what we're doing with this dream work.
100%. I agree with you. And good for your mom
Yes.
for breaking the cycle, because that once somebody in the line, whether it's us or someone else in the past or the future, has awareness then gives us choice. So your mom somehow became aware that this is a pattern that's been going on for a long time, and I don't want to repeat that. She had enough awareness to then be able to make different choices.
Yes.
And if we're not aware, we're led by our unconscious.
Right. And surely that's what we're doing here. And this is
Yeah,
what the work that you're talking about is, to break the cycle and
that's right.
to make a different choice.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I love that. So, what are some of the techniques that you would recommend you people use to, well, number one, become aware of these patterns, and number two, how to change them, how to change the bad patterns and embrace the good ones? Maybe we'll say it that way.
Right. So that is the book in a nutshell.
Okay. Right.
But so I'm going to sort of back us up to the
Sure.
beginning, because I
Please.
don't know who your listeners exactly are and how much experience they have with dream work.
Please.
So to start with, to be able to embrace and perpetuate the things that are gifts and blessings, and to heal the things that are traumatic or wounds or abusing, the first thing you have to do is be aware that these things exist in you and in your family, both sides of the coin, the positive and the negative. So first there's that awareness, and then to have the desire to make a difference for yourself and for others. Because if you don't really care, if it doesn't really matter to you, if your life is involved with other things and you don't really stop to think about it, you're not going to want to embrace the pattern. So it starts with
Yeah.
awareness and desire, which then leads to choice. And then that brings us to the topic of dream work. And in the book, I talk about there's sleeping dream work, the dreams we have when we're sleeping. And then there's what I call dream adjacent practices that are part of our waking dream work world, where we also have choices. So if we bring to mind and we have the desire to either connect with our ancestors, or to get information from our ancestors, or to do some back and forth healing with our ancestors, whatever our goal is, have that as a desire. And then before going to sleep at night, write it in your dream journal. Right. So that's the call out, to have a dream journal by your bed so you can capture your dreams. And just as you said, Catherine, in the beginning, you can be learning and getting information from your dreams, whether or not you understand them. But you have to, you get much more information if you remember them
Yep.
than if you don't remember them. So the first step is to write them down and keep that by your bed. And then later you go back, and then we can talk about things you do once you've written the dreams down. But dream adjacent practices in waking life include things like paying attention to synchronicity in the world. Jung called synchronicity uncanny coincidences. If you walk around holding the intention of wanting to get some information about a certain dilemma or problem or question you have, and in this case, it could be related to your ancestors, hold that in your mind as you walk by the beach, or if you're walking in the forest in a peaceful place, or hold that in your mind as you just sort of notice your surroundings. When we allow ourselves to get out of our prefrontal cortex, right, our thinking brain, and sort of tune in to the rest of our body mind system, we then have access to information that we already have, but weren't able to access if we're only tuned in to one way of accessing knowledge. So this includes meditation and trance work and paying attention to synchronicity, deep therapeutic interventions, body mind ways of attuning to ourselves, listening to the messages of our body, not only our brain. So all of these ways, then I'm going to stop talking,
Keep talk away.
allow
This
us
is your
to
show.
connect with um, messages that our ancestors might have for us.
And so we can do that through our sleeping dreams. And
Yes,
we can also do that while we're awake
that's
by quieting the mind and letting the intuition come up. Is that one way to say it?
yes, that's
Oh,
a good way to say it.
okay.
Some people know of the practice called automatic writing,
Hmm.
and which is simply you have a question, a dilemma, a problem, something you want to know more about, and you start writing. You set a timer. And for starters, people just new to the practice just set for like a minute, but as you get comfortable, you can set it for longer. And then the goal is you start writing without stopping at all. You keep on writing no matter what's coming up as you keep your attention on the issue, the problem, or the question you have, even if it doesn't make sense. And even if you're writing, I don't know what to say, I feel stuck, this is stupid, keep writing anyway, but write those things down.
Hmm.
And then once you've gone through your resistance, right, you've written it out, your other parts of yourself will start saying, oh, I remember Grandpa Joey and he told the story about blah,
Mm.
blah, blah. And it'll start coming through.
Ah, yeah, I'd love to hear some examples. Like, what have you discovered, or some of the people you work with, like either through dream. Well, let's go with dream incubation since this is a show about
Sure.
dreams. And like, well, how can we then explore dreams and maybe give us a few examples of what you've seen?
Sure. Let me think. There's so many examples. Well, one example that comes to the top of my mind is a very simple one, which is someone who was in my dream circle for years and years. Her father died, and she really, really wanted to be in touch with him and to know that he was still like around in her life. And she kept saying, I'm looking for a sign. I'm looking for a sign. I've been telling him to come visit me in my dreams, and he hasn't come. So we said, well, why don't you really hold that desire or thought both before you go to sleep and then in your waking life as well and see what happens. So she came in a couple of weeks later and she says, I've got it. I have a sign. And she said, I was driving home the other day and I looked up and I saw a sign that said Charles Street, street sign. Charles was my father's name.
Oh, okay.
And she said, I knew that it was him because I recognized his sense of humor. I was asking for a sign and he
It's
literally
a
gave me a
sign.
street
Oh my
sign.
God, that's hilarious.
Isn't that great?
Right. And, maybe she's driven past that sign, dozens of times every
Right.
day. But then when you just see something in a certain way, then
Mhm.
that is the synchronicity. That's the coincidence in a meaningful way, something meaningful
Right.
that
I think it
happens.
might be Wayne Dwyer, and excuse me if it's not him, who says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change.
Ah, that's beautiful.
It's
Nicely
beautiful. I
said.
think it's his, but thank you to whoever I'm quoting.
Okay. And now, how about nighttime dreams? How can we use this practice with our nighttime dreams? Because I don't often dream about my ancestors. Are there certain things in dreams I can look for? I know it could incubate, like to have a dream of my grandmother who passed away or something like that.
Right.
But I've never had, honestly, very much luck with dream incubation. So, what do you
Oh,
recommend, like for the nighttime dreams?
so I'm going to back up a click before the nighttime dreams and start with a daytime practice that will help enhance the
Ah.
nighttime dreaming connections. When people are interested in exploring their ancestry and what came before them and what they've inherited in both literal and epigenetic and storylines, make a genogram.
What is a
Make
genogram?
a genogram is a family tree.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
I was very, very lucky that when I was in school a million years ago, I took a class in family therapy, and one of our assignments was to make a family tree and make a genogram. So I interviewed my mother and my grandmother and my aunt, and I interviewed all these people about who was in our family, where did they come from, what can you tell me? Learned things I didn't know. And I made the genogram, the family tree. And there's a model of it in the book. So if people aren't sure what it looks like in the book Ancestral Dreaming, there's a model of how to make a genogram and what to do. And then later on in the book, there's an example of a story that I told about someone's life and her connection with their family, where her family tree is shown
Hmm.
with the various connections to help clarify what her dreams were.
Uh-huh.
So in that story, it's about a person named Shoshana. The genogram that shows up there is connected with the dreams that she had been having. So very, very directly. So that's the first step, because once our parents, grandparents, people in the generations above us pass, we can't ask those questions anymore.
That's true.
So I really encourage you to, before it's too late, ask as many questions as you can and make a family tree so you have the information. And that practice in and of itself, you often get ahas about your own life. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea that this person in my family, had this thing happen to them, or worked as, I don't know, a woodworker. So one of my clients, their great-great-grandfather was a really good carpenter and woodworker and made furniture. And a couple generations later, my client was doing woodwork. And he said, I don't know why I'm attracted to it or how I got to be, actually, I'm pretty good at it. And then he did a family tree. He goes, oh my God, my grandfather passed this on to me. And he never even realized it until
interesting.
The tree.
Okay, he never even, he didn't know that was part of the family trade.
So for starters, to go back and answer your question, which I didn't forget,
right?
Make your family tree, keep it by your bed, and then if you want to incubate a dream, because you said you haven't had too much luck in getting a dream, let me ask you a question. Yeah. When you say you haven't had too much luck getting a dream when you've incubated, does that mean you don't get a dream at all that you remember, or you don't get a dream that you understand is connected to the question?
Well, the latter. I mean, it is a good question, because I often have a dream and I'm like, this doesn't seem at all related to my question. Right. That's what commonly happens for me.
Well, that is classic for dream work, right? As you now know, as a dream worker yourself and doing this for many, many years. And I bet it's relevant to your work as a scientist as well, that when there's an issue or a dilemma and, figuring out something about space travel, you don't know right away, but then later you go, oh, this is connected to this. And it's the same thing with your dreams. If you write a sentence saying, I'd like to have some dreams that give me information about my ancestors, it could be very, very generic, right? So for starters, be as specific as you can in your question.
Okay.
The more specific our dream incubation question is, the more likely it is for our dream, the dream that we remember, to be less in need of lots of layers of interpretation and peeling off. Because dreams, as you know, they come in symbol, they come in metaphor. So we have to unpack the dream and look at what the layers of potential meaning are to be able to see the connection between the dream we had and the question we asked.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful. So, Linda, we need to take a break here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to talk about an exciting workshop conference that Linda and I will both be at next weekend, called the Natural Spirituality Conference. And it's live online next weekend, February 6th through 8th. The topic is dreams and the underworld. And I'll be giving a workshop on the digging for dream gold. And Linda Schiller, our guest today, will be giving a featured presentation. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your presentation?
Oh, thank you. And I'm really so delighted, because I gave a workshop last year on ancestral dreaming. And the workshop I gave last year for NSG was before the book came out. It came out this November. But people really liked the workshop so much that she called me up, the organizer of the conference, and said, hey, how about you come and be the book talk person for next year. So she invited me to come and present my work. So I'll be talking about ancestral dreaming, and I'll do some reading of the book. It'll be like a book talk if you go to a bookstore. So I'll do some reading, I'll do some explaining, and there's lots of time for Q&A as well.
And there's many other workshops as well, and there's a keynote speaker, and then there's some music. I think there's some live music that is going to happen. This is sort of connected to the Hayden Institute, and so which some of you may know about. But you can find out about this conference at nsrgathering.org, and you can register. It has a sliding scale of offerings of fees, so very reasonable. So I hope you guys can join us then. So as I said, our guest today is Linda Schiller, and you can find out her Information at lindayaelschiller.com, YAELSCHILLER. The Dream Journal is broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU, and we are a podcast everywhere. Also, I'm excited to share that for the last few episodes, I've started releasing full-length videos of the conversations. You can find them on my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork, including this one. I'm looking at Linda right now as we record this. Right. So after this short break, we're going to continue talking about dreams and ancestors. We will be right back. You are listening to the Dream Journal, and I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork. I'd like to send out a special welcome to our far-flung listeners. We have listeners all over California, Santa Cruz, Upto, Santa Clara, Gilroy, San Jose, Elk Grove, Sacramento, Fresno, Whittier, and Corona, and Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Atlanta. And two Quebec listeners from British Columbia. Two Canadian listeners, one from British Columbia and the other from Quebec. So people all over the world are interested in their dreams. If you want to nudge the algorithm to help spread interest in dreaming, please subscribe to the Dream Journal on your favorite podcast app. Consider leaving a rating or a review, and maybe share an episode on your social media. But most importantly, tell your friends about the show. You might just find your next dream sharing buddy. Follow the Dream Journal on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and now YouTube by looking for @Experiential Dreamwork. Next week, we welcome to the Journal Michael Malura, who will be talking about how to start using DreamWork in clinical sessions. I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. And today, we are talking to Linda Schiller about her book, Ancestral Dreaming, Healing Generational Wounds with Active Dream Work. And so welcome back, Linda.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay. So where are we at? What do you want to dig into next? We have a lot of options here.
Okay. I was resonating as I listened to you talk about your show, that the name of it is Experiential Dreamwork.
Oh, okay.
And that's such a wonderful title. And that is sort of how I sort of describe myself and my way of work, and that when we're doing any kind of dream work, but in particular, the topic today, working with ancestral dreaming, it is experiential. And when I say talking about working with the whole being, body, mind, heart, spirit, we're listening to our body, and some of the methods and techniques that we use to connect with our ancestors, to heal ourselves, to heal future generations, they are experiential. So it involves doing as well as thinking and feeling. I just wanted to really appreciate the title of your show.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, for me, the dream is an experience that I have. Just like I have waking life experiences, I have dream experiences, and I don't remember all the dream experiences because I'm asleep, but they are just as valuable as waking life experiences.
Yeah. One of the things that I have talked about is that in our dreams, it's always now.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Not the past,
right?
And it's not the future, but it's now. So whatever it is we're dreaming about experientially it's not as if it's happening in the moment. It actually is happening in the moment, in the now of the dream state.
Oh, interesting.
Which is how and why we're able to do time travel, go forward and backward in time and connect with and heal our ancestors, because in the dream, it's now.
Right, which is interesting because that's always our goal to get to in this kind of, idealistic world, instead of being trapped in the past or worrying about the future, that to be in the now. And yet every dream, I had never thought of it quite like this, that every dream we're in the now. So Linda, why am I dreaming about NASA?
That's right. So
that was so far, that was in the past. I quit in 2004. So 21 and a half years. And yet I was, as if it was right now, I was thinking about my numerical calculations. Let me just share the dream again. I was just thinking about my numerical calculations. I was in a place where there was a computer and I was working with it, which is what I did at NASA. And I was specifically worrying about the results of the calculations, and that I study the conditions. All the planets are in the same plane, and they formed out of kind of a soup that's the shape of like a CD or an album, with flat and all stretched out, and that's called the protosolar nebula. And the way, the inner planets are rocky and the outer planets are gaseous, it has to do with the inner planetary system was hotter than the outer planetary. So the inner system, the gas was all blown away. And so I do calculations of the protosolar nebula. I did. Interesting, I used the present tense again. How about that?
Oh,
there it is. Yes, a Jungian slip maybe even.
Right. Both.
But there was something about that I was doing those calculations again, but I was worrying, like, we don't really have any verification for these. These are just models. And that was sort of the gist of the dream. And there was, there's images, there was people around, and there were things happening that I don't remember. But that was kind of the idea of it, that I was back doing NASA things, which, I've had NASA dreams over the years, but usually they're about, like, I'm going to my office and there's a toilet there instead of a desk, right?
Right.
This has happened, and
I can't in the toilet now.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the toilet. But then, or maybe there's the dream about can't find my mailbox at NASA. But this was specifically about my work, my numerical calculations.
Right.
So
I have several thoughts about it, and then some questions. And as we talked about earlier in the show, if we connect your dream to the fact that you knew that we were going to be having this conversation today about ancestral dreaming. Yeah. So my mind goes to, so if it were my dream, what might be the connections? If I used to be a NASA researcher, but I haven't been in a long time, and my guest is talking about ancestral dreaming, and I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow. So somewhere in the back of your mind, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
You were preparing for this interview,
absolutely,
thinking about getting set up. So I sort of made a few notes as you were talking.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And for starters, this was a previous job.
Yes.
That happened in your past.
Right. So it's kind of the past, yes. But here it is in the present.
Exactly. So you're dreaming about something from your past. That already, if it were my dream, would orient me to, our ancestors are in our past. This was in my past.
Oh.
So this was in my past.
What is it they say? The child is the father of the man? That the child is the ancestor of the man, in a way. Have you heard that one? Yeah.
I have. So I'm thinking about what's going on in your dream, and specifically, and I'm glad you explained what that long word is that I don't even remember, that it has to do with the calculations of the planets. But it's really interesting. You said it's sort of flat like a disc, and it's like more dense in the center and it's more gaseous on the outside. But in your dream, you're worried about the numerical calculations.
Right.
And you mentioned two things. One, you mentioned many things, but what I jotted down was, one is that this research you were working on is theoretical, and there's no verification yet.
No, I mean, people have used the models who study asteroids in the solar system here, and they have found that the asteroids were formed at temperatures and densities similar to what will show up in my models. Okay. But there's a pretty wide range. So
you're working with these models in your previous job, in your past.
Yep.
And then they show up in your dream. And I'm thinking about, there's not yet verification, but there's beginning to be connections and correlations. And that reminds me of doing dream work.
Oh.
It's not something that is verified. We can't add it up 1 and 1 and get 2. However, you and I, and hopefully all your listeners know, that when we continue to work with our dreams, we get verification about what they might and our meaning. So that's one.
Interesting.
2 is our dreams come through and have many different layers of meaning. So in your work, there were many different layers of this planetary system and many different models. And what particularly struck me is, you said, if I got it right, that the inner planetary system was hotter.
Yep.
than the outer planetary system. So my mind went to, if we want to look at our dreams, if we want to look at how our ancestors might be connected with our dreams, it's like when you're playing hide and seek and someone says you're getting warmer, and
Yeah.
thinking you're getting closer and closer to the hot inner core as we
Okay.
do dream
Oh,
work
interesting.
to connect us with the hot inner core of who we are and who our genetic and epigenetic inheritance is.
Oh, interesting. And
So that was
like,
my take.
yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting because I'm kind of going to the carrying that further along to the stage when the protosolar disk starts to fade away, and then the power of the sun at the center blows away the gas, and what's revealed are the planets. And so maybe those are some of the rocky cores of who we are in this present.
That's brilliant. I couldn't have said that because I didn't have the scientific information. But as I
No.
listen to you say that, it's like, wow, as you blow away the gases that
Yeah,
interfere,
like the
right?
vapors,
And
the
block, literally,
yeah.
that block the sun,
Yes, yes.
which is so cool.
Right.
Then we can shine light on who and what the planets are, these rocky planets that are orbiting us. And what a wonderful way to think about who our ancestors are, that they're still orbiting us in some way.
Okay. Oh, I love that. Yeah, well, they definitely have a gravitational influence on us.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And we might as well be aware of that because it does affect how we move through this world because we have this pre-verbal influence on us from the ancestors, and some of it
Right.
is powerful and supportive, and some of it is fear-based.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's so wonderful that you have so much power on both sides of your brain. Because not a lot of people do both left brain and right brain and do it well. So blessings and thank you for having that and bringing the scientific NASA studies into our dream work.
Well, it's interesting that for much of my life, I was studied as a scientist. I got my PhD. It takes 12 years. It took me 12 years anyway. It took me a little while. No, actually 12 years. Starting college all the way through PhD was 12 years.
Yeah.
But there was that sort of, I guess, in my left hemisphere, the computational one was so strong that it really clouded up the psychological side of myself. And it wasn't until I realized how unhappy I was studying this science. I was good at it, but I was not happy doing it. And for a long time, I thought that didn't matter. And I was like, oh, with that, what's the point? What's the matter? This is just life. You don't have to be happy. You just have to live it. And then then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not. I want more. And so then the kind of the light of my inner desire to be happy blew away some of the obscuring clouds of the science that had cluttered up, or how shall we say, or it had formed a part of my early years. I don't want to denigrate the things that I did along the way. I don't want to talk down to myself and criticize myself. But the choices I made are the choices I made, and I'm just glad that I'm able to emerge into a state where I am happy, and I have been able to follow a more psychological course. Which is interesting. Talk about ancestors. My grandfather, my mother's father, who was so abusive, he was actually a psychologist. He was the director of the mental institution where they filmed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Actually, so he was actually a director.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was also a rageaholic and a dry drunk, and he ended up in the institution that he used to be the head of. And so he had a lot of. But he was a psychologist. The point that I was making, so there's like the dark side, but there's also the light side, which was he was a psychologist. In fact, one of my uncles, one of his sons, is also a psychologist. Well, he's passed away now too. But there is a lot of psychology in my family as well as hard sciences. And so this was like the other side of my brain, as you say, that has started to shine through more in my later parts of my life. And so I'm really fortunate to have been able to live both sides. Both sides of
What
that.
a wonderful, wonderful, well, story is the word I came to mind, but like this history that you have that you shared with us is so profound. Both I'm happy for you, and it's so connected with your dream. right?
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
you'd think, right? Psychologists, they've got it all together, but no,
Typically
but
not.
no, no.
No, my experience
There's an old
psychologists are like they're like, whoa, something I don't feel right. I got to study this, and so
Well, there's an old joke about who studies, psychology, who studies therapy? Someone who needs 40 hours of therapy,
yes,
right? It's like the
exactly,
old joke.
right.
So there are those in
Uh-huh.
our profession. Thank God, not everyone, but
Okay,
there are.
right.
But in your dream and your story just now, there were clouds obscuring your ability to find the happiness that you knew you could get more of,
Uh,
and there were clouds obscuring the sun
yes,
in your dream,
right, right.
and you blew them away, and the
Uh-huh.
sun's shining brightly now, and here you are shining brightly in
Right.
this other part of your work.
And I do
I
still
like
use
that.
the left side of my brain quite a bit now because we're deep in the throes of the IASD conference planning for the June conference. And I'm the database manager. You're welcome.
You Thank you.
It's a
Yes.
lot of work and it's a lot of spreadsheets and things. And yet I find it really, really valuable because every single person, every entry in the spreadsheet is a human being who has something valuable to contribute. And I'm really honored to be able to uplift as many people as I can and to bring people together. So it's like I get to use both halves of my brain even now.
You're using your
Yeah.
early scientific training to help create this amazing
Yeah.
conference.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of what you do in your Tikkun Olam, in your repairing the world. You
Yeah.
use your history of your studies of science and the other scientists in your family with your history and your current knowledge of human nature and
Mm-hmm.
our emotions and our thoughts. And what a great blend. And we get to
Mm-hmm.
thank you for putting the conference together. And I don't have that much on the left side of my brain. I'm a bit of a Luddite. So I'm in deep respect for those who not only have it, but God, those who have both are like, I really, bow to you on that.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. It's an honor to be able to do it. So, Linda, I wanted to ask you, like, what are your plans next? I know you've been doing a touring and a million book shows and things, but do you have any inkling about what's leading you next? Do you have another book in the hopper?
Well, I do get asked that question. I'll save that one for last. But what my upcoming plans are in actually exactly 1 month, I'm hopping on a plane and I was invited by the IASD chapter of New Zealand.
Oh,
So I'm going to New Zealand to teach dream work for
wow.
3 days. And so
Wonderful.
I'm really excited. It's been a dream of mine to go to New Zealand like forever. So with this, I get to combine, my travel and a teaching opportunity to share dream work with people there. And I'll bring my husband, and then we're going to travel around and spend a
Oh,
couple weeks.
wow. What a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. And if any of your listeners want to go to New Zealand, there's still room at the end
Okay.
to get registration, and, and,
I
and
do have
then you can stay and travel
yeah.
around. And if anyone's interested, you can contact me and I'll connect you with, her name is Jenny Kari, who's coordinating the program
Is this
in
on
New
the
Zealand.
the ISD page as well, the web page? It should be if it's a regional event. Is it a regional event?
I'm not exactly sure.
Oh,
I think so, but I don't know if she put it up on the
okay. Well,
ISD
you can take a
website.
look at asdreams.org and see if it's there. And maybe it
Right.
is, maybe it isn't. But that sounds like an amazing adventure.
And if it's not, and you contact me, it's lindaschiller@gmail.com. So if you wanted to shoot me an email, I'll send you. She made a gorgeous poster. So I'll send you the poster with all the links and everything.
Great.
So that's coming up.
Okay, well, send it to me,
Then,
Linda, too, and I'll put a link on the episode page.
oh, terrific.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Because I do have listeners in Australia, so you never know. Some people might hop on over.
I did a couple podcasts in Australia with
Whoa.
Melissa
Johnson?
Goodwin. I'm blanking on her last
Johnson?
name, but Johnson, that's
Yes.
it. And another guy named Barry Eaton. So that's coming up. And then in June, I'll be in Ashland, where I'm excited to see everyone from the big conference, the international conference coming up. And then in the fall, I'm going to be presenting at Omega Institute,
Oh.
which is an integrative spirituality body mind institute that's sort of called the Echelon of the East for people who are West Coasties, together with our colleague Kim Mascaro, the two of us are presenting a week-long workshop on connecting with our ancestors.
Oh, wonderful.
So, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's in the Hudson Valley in Rhinebeck, New York. It will be up on their website soon. It's not quite up yet, but if you want to save the date, I have to look at my calendar. It's September of, I got my calendar here. I don't know what kind of view you're getting of my sweater. The 14th through the 18th of September is when the Omega workshop will be.
Oh, I have never been there.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. And then, people do come out for it if you're not local to New England, to stay and, do some exploring in the Hudson Valley and the Adirondacks, or go to the beach, go to the shore. It's a lovely place to be.
Fabulous. So, Linda, we're almost at the end of our time, and you promised you were going to tell us about what your inkling of your next book might be, or your next research topic.
So it's still a real baby seed, but it'll probably get watered and start to grow once the sort of the flurry around this book is, because I'm blessed that I'm doing a lot of podcasts and talks and travel, so I don't really have the time or energy now, but it's going to have to do with Kabbalah and dream work.
Oh, Kabbalah.
I'm going to take a deeper dive myself. I've been a student of Kabbalah for many, many years, but I don't call myself a pro. Nobody's ever a pro. You can study it all your life and still just scratch the surface. So I'm going to do some more work myself and get immersed a little bit more deeply, and then continue, because I've done some work in some of my other books and writing about the connections between understanding various types of Kabbalah, the layers of understanding a dream based on the Pardes system, which I spelled out in my first book, of looking at ever deepening layers. And then there's the whole concept of the Sefirot, which are in the aspects of the divine that sort of correspond to different parts of our body. And it's roughly equivalent to the chakra system.
So very, very rich system.
On this, and then
I think you'll have a lot to talk about there. That's a very rich system, the Kabbalah. Yeah. So, Linda, thank you. This has been wonderful. Your webpage is Linda Yael Schiller, YaelSchiller, YaelSchiller.com. And I wonder if you have any final encouragements or thoughts for our listeners.
Oh, yeah. So we didn't really get into talking too much about healing our ancestral wounds, which is a large part of the focus of the book. So what I'll leave us with then is two things. One is saying there's lots and lots of very practical experiential exercises that you can do in the book. It also talks about the various stages of grief and how we do this work from an embodied perspective. And it helps us also to have good boundaries while we're doing this work, because we have to stay boundaried and protected from carrying or holding things or picking up things that aren't ours to carry. So one of the questions I ask people to ask themselves when we're doing ancestral work, and when they identify a family line story that they're carrying, is I ask them, is this yours to carry?
Is this yours to carry? That's a good question.
Is this yours to carry? And if not, are you ready to put it down?
Okay.
And then the last piece is from what Diana Fosha says, she's a psychologist, that all of us are hardwired for healing. They find such an optimistic and hopeful viewpoint. So to remember we're all hardwired for healing, and that we can put down the things that aren't ours to carry.
Beautiful. Linda Schiller, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right. So glad to have you on the show. And thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz. We are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at catherine@ksqd.org, KATHERINE@ksqd.org. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube to keep up with the shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator. Audio editing by Suki Wessling. Phones by Eric Nelson. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.